Hello, beautiful. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Christian. Let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Hello, sacral beauties. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast, where we focus on burnout recovery through the power of sacred pleasure. And today we're diving in and talking about stage 3 of the 12 stages of burnout. Now, in this stage, this is where we begin to really neglect our needs. We kind of started doing this when we were focusing on working harder in stage 2, but in stage 3, we've really gotten to the space of just completely abandoning the things that make us feel like us, taking care of ourselves, and deprioritizing what's important to us so that way we feel good, whole, and out of burnout. So I'm really excited to dive in and talk about this topic with you. Now, this is the point in burnout where things begin to shift from doing too much to just completely ignoring what your body is quietly asking for. And I want to make it clear that it's not laziness. A lot of times it can be seen as laziness because it's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, get up, clean, take care of yourself. What's wrong? It's really a dissociation from the body after too much pressure for too long. So let's cover some of the common signs of this stage of burnout. This can look like skipping meals or just kind of grabbing whatever's super convenient. This is when we start going into that fast food train a little bit more, or just constantly getting takeout. We begin to ignore our thirst, rest, and even bathroom breaks. You may start to recognize disrupted sleep. It can be really hard to fall asleep or to wake up feeling rested. Movement starts to become rare or non-existent. If you notice that you've just become really sedentary, you're not moving your body, you are just working to the grind, constantly on the computer, or maybe you're so exhausted from working, you just lay on the bed and lay on the couch. And that will start to settle into your body where you just forget to move, or movement just doesn't feel like the norm throughout the day. You have to consciously think about moving. And overall, you feel like your life runs on autopilot. You don't even feel like you're there. You are really in this space of major dissociation. I know we dissociate from our body, but we just kind of really begin to dissociate from everything. And we don't even know where we are at that point. Sometimes we can just really be so wrapped up into our minds that we're just not present. Being present feels so overwhelming on top of the pressure that you're feeling while going through burnout. So you don't feel like you're avoiding your needs, but you haven't truly felt them in weeks. Okay, so to you in this moment in time, you may not even recognize that you are not taking care of yourself. You just feel like it's kind of slipping away from you, or maybe you haven't done it in a while. But in actuality, we are in a stage of neglect. So let's talk more about the root cause of this stage. And this is the point where the core belief centered around this root cause is, I'll take care of myself after I take care of everything else. So it's more of a feeling of internalized self-abandonment. You may start prioritizing work and even other people's needs or your to-do lists. You may start feeling guilty for choosing self-care over productivity. And then you may recognize the early signs of dissociation that we've been mentioning earlier in this podcast, which is when your body cues become background noise and care becomes very conditional. It becomes, I'll eat when I finish this, or I'll rest once it's all done. And so neglect doesn't always look harsh. And I think that's the part that can be so tricky, and it can really sneak on us where we don't even recognize how we're already in stage 3 of burnout. But sometimes it just feels like you'll get to it later, over and over and over again. Now, when it comes to how this stage impacts your hormones and your nervous system, when we start to neglect ourselves, we run into blood sugar instability. This can really spike a lot of cortisol and create insulin resistance. And insulin resistance, in case if you're kind of like, what does it really mean? Because for me, when I was first learning about it, I was like, what? Like, how does that work really? And insulin resistance happens when, the cells and your muscles are responsible for really transporting insulin. Whenever you eat sugar or carbs or anything that breaks down into sugar, it's supposed to be used as an energy source, and it goes into your cells and your muscles. And so when those cells are not responsive to the insulin because your cortisol is high, which means it's going to elevate your blood sugar, your body stops responding to it because it's like, hey, we're full. Our cells are full, the muscles are full, there's no more room for any more sugar or insulin. And so that insulin goes into the bloodstream. And when that happens, we really start to run into a lot of inflammation in the body, and it starts to look like a lot of crashes and fatigue throughout the day because our body's not able to utilize that energy source, especially when we're not moving our bodies, right? So if we're becoming really sedentary, we're neglecting ourselves, we're not moving our bodies, that insulin, that sugar is going to recirculate back into the bloodstream instead of going to where it needs to go, which is in the muscles, because we're not using the muscles. We're not burning off that built up sugar and, just kind of grabbing something super quick. On top of constantly eating out and eating foods that are not as nourishing for our bodies. The other thing that happens with our nervous system as well as our hormones is that our melatonin begins to dysregulate. So when you're having this high amount of cortisol, you're not prioritizing your sleep, you're not prioritizing your rest, you're not getting out, you're not getting that beautiful sunshine, your melatonin will begin to become dysregulated. When your melatonin, which is the hormone that's responsible for your sleep cycles, gets dysregulated, your sleep just gets dysregulated. You start falling asleep or crashing through the middle of the day, or it's really hard for you to fall asleep or to stay asleep. And when you don't get enough rest, when you don't get enough sleep, this can lead you into feeling really stressed, or not being able to be resilient and resistant to stress that comes your way, not being able to feel like you can handle life stresses. This can also contribute to more of the weight gain and things of that nature. So it really does start to impact you. You can also experience nervous system swings as well. So you can begin to feel really exhausted in the morning and in the daytime, but then feeling really wired but tired at night. And just as I mentioned, that low-grade inflammation will start to build due to lack of restoration. When you have so much inflammation, the body will start to redistribute where that inflammation goes, where the fat distribution goes in your body. And that's because the body is trying to protect itself in the most vulnerable areas, which is going to be the face and the neck and the belly. Those are your most protective areas because those are the most vulnerable areas. You think of your belly, that's where all your vital organs are. So we want to make sure that's protected. And the body recognizes that it's under a lot of stress and inflammation. So it wants to make sure that that area is protected. Your neck, your jugular, right? Your throat. This is also a super, super vulnerable, sensitive area. So your neck can start to get kind of thick and puffed up as well, or you may start to experience problems with your thyroid as well. And then, of course, your face, your head is really important. This is where your brain is. This is where your eyes are. This is where a lot of you lives, is within your head and your face. And so your body wants to make sure that's also protected. So you may start to notice a lot of this inflammation and puffiness in those areas. But besides that, you may also start to experience inflammation just throughout your entire system. You may experience more pain in your body, more stiffness in your body. You may experience more flare-ups, more allergies, more gut inflammation, just inflammation overall. So we want to be so mindful of that. And some other symptoms that can come with this look like lightheadedness, cravings, again, having the cortisol phase, and having stronger levels of PMS or PMDD. You can feel empty or numb despite trying to do all the things, all the healthy wellness things. It just doesn't seem to be working. And you can start to feel like you don't have any motivation for movement or cooking or pampering. You kind of either want to escape or work. Putting in effort towards yourself starts to feel very overwhelming because you're already doing so much for others or doing so much for your work. Now, the energetic consequence that comes with neglecting ourselves is when your body doesn't trust you to meet its needs, it will stop asking softly. Your body's going to try its best to stay in tune with you, to stay connected with you, but the more and more that you ignore it and you dismiss your body's needs or you shut your body down, that's when things will start to go a little haywire. So you definitely want to stay in tune with your body. And just as a reminder, when you think about hormones are the body's communication system. So we want to be mindful that we're just tuning in and listening to our bodies as best we can. So now I want to focus on how does this stage really feel inside when we're in the stage 3 of burnout. You can have this sense of being checked out from your physical self, again, having that dissociation from your physical body. You may feel guilt or discomfort when it comes to resting or having any kind of indulgence or pleasure. You forget what it feels like to feel good. That just starts to feel foreign to you, and you almost become very used to feeling pain and discomfort in your body. Tension becomes your natural default setting. If you notice that your shoulders are tight all the time, or you just always feel this tightness and tension and stiffness in your body, that starts to become the norm for you during stage 3. And so I want to remind you that you're not lazy. You are undernourished, not just in food, but in care, in rhythm, and in rest. So why does stage 3 trigger deeper levels of burnout? When your needs continuously go unmet, your body will enter into chronic depletion. And I don't think we realize how devastating this can be to your body. Your body needs those micronutrients, right? The magnesium, the selenium, the vitamins that, our body needs, our minerals, because that is really going to help you with the function of your body, the quality of the protein and the fiber and the carbs that you're eating and staying hydrated. That is just your diet. That's just what you're consuming. But moving your body, getting plenty of rest, getting plenty of sunshine, getting plenty of joyful moments, having those wonderful positive memories that helps to create more of that dopamine and all of the feel-good chemicals that support your body as well. When that goes unmet, our body is in chronic depletion and parts of our body start to shut down. When that happens, we can start losing our hair and our skin starts to decline. It can only get worse from there. So when the body is in chronic depletion, that is also a part of that burnout stage. When you experience long-term neglect, this will contribute to inflammation, hormone imbalance, and adrenal fatigue. When your nervous system stops resetting because we stop listening to our bodies and taking care of our bodies and we keep dysregulating our nervous system, our digestion begins to slow down. We're having a hard time with our gut health and digesting foods, and your cycles become very irregular. You become functional but fragile. So you're kind of putting on this face, this mask, as much as you can on the outside, but inside you are just in the space of trying to survive instead of thriving. And I want to remind you that your needs are not indulgent. They are instruction. And self-care is not a reward. It is a part of your rhythm. It is a part of your natural medicine. And so it's so important to recognize that when we are neglecting ourselves, to try to catch it as soon as we can. Being able to shift that I'll do it later to let me step away for a moment. And even if I can't do all of it right now, I need to do something. Sometimes I like to even pair some of my self-care activities with my work. So if I'm doing a little work on the computer, maybe I can soak my feet, or maybe I can go to a cafe or a different environment or go outdoors to do a little bit of work just to kind of shift things and help my body to still get some good sunshine in. And honestly, sometimes it's just great to take a break and pull away from work altogether. Even if it's just a 30-minute break or a 1 hour nap throughout the day, can do wonders. All right, so let's talk about some ways we can start to shift this stage and start to turn this ship around. Number one, you can start focusing on just doing some daily check-ins, tracking your meals, your hydration, your movement, your sleep, just kind of seeing where you are. And sometimes that can be stressful. I get that, where it's like, oh, if I do one more thing, I'm gonna lose it. But if you can get to a space where you can have some kind of check-in system that works for you, that feels gentle, that's not overwhelming, it's going to be really, really helpful, because it can really just give you that visual accountability to say, oh, I'm getting a little off track with taking care of myself. So we want to be mindful of that. Or just asking yourself, what do I need today? What does my body need today? What does my mind need today? You can also build some mini nourishment rituals. I know a lot of times we kind of avoid taking care of ourselves, especially when we're in the space of burnout or we're really overwhelmed with a lot of things. When we think of taking care of ourselves, sometimes in our mind we think that it has to be this big to-do. I got to go to the gym for an hour. I need to make myself a big lavish meal that's super healthy. Sometimes just taking a break to maybe drink a little lemon water and set an intention while drinking the lemon water for how you want the rest of your day to go. Using your afternoon to have a slow lunch, taking your time with eating and enjoying some calming music is also really helpful. And in the evening, maybe have a little mocktail to kind of fall asleep and rest nice and easily, take a nice warm shower, or do some touch-based body gratitude, thanking your body for supporting you throughout the entire day. You can also do what's called a little body whisper timer. So every 90 minutes, take a pause and ask yourself simple questions about your needs, such as, am I thirsty? Have I stretched? What do I physically need right now? How do I feel in this moment? So when you're in this stage and you're wanting to turn those things around when it comes to releasing that self-abandonment and that sense of neglect, to remind yourself that you are returning back home. You're returning back to yourself with every stretch and every breath, and every time you nourish and hydrate yourself is you returning back into yourself. And depending on how long you've been in this space, it takes time to recalibrate. Sometimes I think that could be a little bit frustrating for us as well when we've been in this space of self-neglect for a really long time, and then we try to get back on track. Maybe we start back eating healthy again, or we try to work out, but it seems like nothing's really effective. Like our body is still very much in this space. You can almost feel like, what's the point? I might as well just go back working or doing what I was doing because it's not very effective. But it takes a minute because the body has gotten in this space of feeling unsafe for quite a while. So look at yourself gently and with care to say, okay, I'm so sorry, body. Please forgive me. But I'm here now. I'm here to take care of you so that you can continue to take care of me. You deserve to be nourished now, not later. All you have to do is listen. All right, well, this concludes our episode for today. In our next episode, we're going to dive into stage 4. I'm going to talk more about numbing out, when you just kind of start focusing on distraction instead of restoration. And at that point, we've completely dissociated from our bodies after that stage of neglecting our needs. So be sure to tune in to that episode as well. All right. Well, thank yourself so much for showing up today, and thank you for tuning in to the She Sacral podcast.